Hey everybody, this is Joel. I'm the founder of the Dryden Experiment. We're here in our hot pink bedroom for our live hangout. Joining me today are Eugene Kelly III and Tracy Vincent I. And if other people come in and want to join in as we go along, we'll introduce them and get to know them and enjoy a little talk with them. I'm going to talk just a little bit about what the Dryden Experiment is, and then we're just going to kind of chat our way through what's gone on in the Dryden Experiment this week. And as always, it's an amazingly lot of many things. So first of all, just what is the Dryden Experiment? We're a Creative Commons genre generating system. I'm not sure exactly what to call us exactly. What we do is we take a genre. For example, we have a science fiction genre, and we build a sort of a backbone in it. So in the science fiction genre, we built a history of the future and faster than light travel rules and a lot of the different kind of nuts and bolts kind of things that you would have in a science fiction universe. And then we put them all under the Creative Commons 4.0 BYSA license so that anybody else who would like to come along and work in that environment can do so without having to get our permission, without having to pay us for it. What they have to do is credit us, and then put their materials under the Creative Commons as well. And what that does is allow us to grow these really cool environments with lots of different people working cooperatively together, and then we all cross-promote each other to make sure that we're all very successful and get seen in the market, which is kind of a trick because there are so many people in the market. So we're a really kind of cool way to take whatever it is that you're working on and take it up to the next level. And that's what we do. And we get together once a week and hang out and talk it out because, my God, we're big and we do a lot of stuff. Eugene Kelly III, tell us what you would like to talk about first today.
Okay, well, I'm sort of not mundane, but I'm kind of what's that sound?
Someone is ringing. What does this mean?
Yes.
Is it me? I don't think it's me.
It's from Dan.
It's Dan.
Yeah, Dan is doing a call.
Where is he?
I'm just going to check and see. So if I block out, then that's what's going on.
Okay, well, send him the link to the updated. Apparently he's trying to come in and join us. Maybe he has exciting news about eclipsing of Sirius C. All right, in the meantime, Eugene, what's going on?
Well, on the front of the Rise of Europa, I've been doing some editing of that today.
Awesome.
I'm taking basically this, what you said, taking the underground water battle and putting it on the surface. I'm just trying to switch things around. That part where before I had another part where they arrived at the surface, I might either delete that part or just meld it into to the new battle. And then I'll go back and change. I'll also go back and change the ending to what you were talking about.
Okay.
And then so that's that, and then what I'll do is once I've got the really big stuff down, what I'll do is I'll send it to you.
You shouldn't have to empty your wallet.
Oh, sorry about
that. It's a Philly bank. Nissan is.
Sorry about that. Some ad popped up. Basically, I clean my computer. Basically, what it is that I took I'm going to do the big stuff, and then the little big stuff, maybe a little cleaning up. I'll send it to you because one thing you mentioned before about some of the descriptive words, you want me to cut back on some of those. I agree with you to a certain extent. The one thing that I'm a little leery about cutting back too much is, again, my story is different because it's multiple. It's not. I mean, if it was one block story, you're just reading all at once, then I could definitely see that. But depending on how how the book is organized, there will be at least one story in between my chapters. So
yes.
I think in that sense, even though I want to make sure that there isn't too much repetition, I do think that there keeping some of the descriptive words in might be all right, because again, it's not that it's not like it's cut. They're just reading the whole thing all at once. With reading all at once, I definitely see it, but I mean, I think doing the heavy descriptions re-immerses the reader back into what I'm talking about. Now, yes, some things probably I'll go back. I'll probably do need to cut back on, but I think at keeping a lot of the description, I say re-immerses, because my narrative, I haven't read anyone else's, except for Dan's. But I'm guessing all the other ones are pretty human. I think by having these descriptions re-immerses back to this vision, which is completely unhuman.
Right on.
So I think, again, what I'll do is I'll send it off to you with the big changes, and then we can talk about to see what further we can do.
Right on, right on. I think that's all cool. My one concern is that I don't want to burn you out, because we will have changes next week after we've integrated all the stories together, and I worry that you're going to do all this work in response to my comments, and then there's still going to be work to be done once we've actually got it put together, and you're going to be like, dude, I wrote this 4 times already. So my main concern right now is taking care of you, and not sort of burning you out before we have the full thing to look at. So absolutely, when you're in a place that you want to send it back to me, do that, and then we'll kind of sort out from there what to do next. I'm excited to see it again. So for folks who aren't familiar with what we're talking about, in the science fiction universe, we're getting close to full draft version. Hey, there's Tracy Vincent back. Did you find him?
I did, and I talked to him, and he's messing with his iPad, so it's going kind of crazy on him.
Okay.
But I found him on Facebook, and I sent him the link because he couldn't get the chat to work.
Okay.
On his iPad, so he said he should be here in a moment, hopefully.
You know, we've been having this problem with that talk gadget that's the new Google Hangout not wanting to talk to the YouTube version of Google Hangouts. There's some sort of software issue between the two.
Well, I sent him the direct link that you sent me.
Okay.
So he shouldn't have a problem, but he's messing with his iPad. So apparently, you know, he's dealing with it.
Oh, and Kitty is asking.
Yeah, I'm sending it to her too, since I have it in my paste function still.
Okay.
I saw a message from her.
Okay, so we're just about to see the first full rough draft of Rise of the Europan, which is set in the science fiction universe in the year 2600, when the alien life form that lives under the sea in Europa decides that it's had enough of the humans and throws them off the planet, not to put too fine a point on it. And I'm still talking to Kitty. Okay, so maybe Kitty will join us, and maybe Kitty won't join us. We'll find out in a minute. So that project is going very well, and what Eugene is doing is this really, really interesting thing. We had 6 authors that we were working with, and we just sort of set up, okay, we want to tell the story of the Rise of the Europan, we want to tell it as a series of short stories. Send us ideas, and Eugene's idea, and it was really kick-ass, was he wants to write from the Europan's perspective. So we have 5 more or less conventional short stories about humans and their misadventures when the alien under the ice of Europa comes up to take over the world, and then we have Eugene telling it from the Europan's perspective, and it's a really cool concept. It's taking a lot of integration work to make those work smoothly together, which is what Eugene and I were talking about just now, but a really, really cool project.
And there's one little thing I want to mention. I think from what you're talking about the first draft, actually, you know, I'm going to do maybe a little work tonight, but I'll actually probably hold off on doing the editing after what you said. I'll read the first draft, so especially that final battle with Damien. I want to be able to make it look good. So I think I'll probably actually hold off on that for a bit.
Awesome, awesome. And you know I'm just worried about, you know, you're going to get in there and you're going to do this work and you're going to do this work, and then we're going to put them all together and it's going to be like, okay, Eugene, well, here's what we need to change, and it's going to be like, and I don't want to put you through that, you know, unnecessarily, I guess. So if you feel like you're in a good place and you want to see the rest and how it all fits together, that's cool. You can send me where you are, or even if you just want to look at it with it as you submitted it before.
As is, so that
right
I'll
on.
be able to go straight into. Then do you want me to talk about the other stuff I'm working on?
Well, why don't we, since we got over here into sci-fi, why don't we go ahead and talk about sci-fi a little bit more, and then we'll come back because I think you want to talk about horror next, right?
Nathan, honey, I'm in a beanie.
Well, this one, when I
Got an important message from the
it sounded
6-year-old. Everyone focus.
I know. Hold on. I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. I'm going to hold off, though, having said that, on eclipsing because I know that Dan is trying to get in and join us at the moment. And he is the author of Eclipsing. The sort of the biggest thing that's dominated my time this week is the Big Damn Dryden role-playing game. It's set in the science fiction universe in the year 2503. It's Big Damn Dryden 2503, as a matter of fact, is what it's called. And it was written by Nicholas Mall in Ballarat, Australia, who owns Owlman Press, and it's a lot of fun. We've got several play groups running now. And we decided to go ahead and kickstart the game. We didn't really need a Kickstarter because we were fully funded, but we did something a little kind of novel with our Kickstarter. Instead of having that sort of bottom level funder where you just you give a very small amount and everybody says whoopee, thanks for that, we set up a pre-release version of the role-playing game. I'll put the link to the Kickstarter below. I'm making a note to myself. And we made a pre-release version of the game that's the full and complete game except for character creation stuff. And we put that version of the game available free to anybody who asks for it. With the idea that we wanted to give away about 100 of them. We're over 50 now. We have given away more than 50 versions of the free versions. We started a players and fan page for all the people that have picked up the free version. We got some really cool stuff going on. We're overfunded now on the Kickstarter, but that's not actually saying much because we only asked for $100. We really just wanted to give away free versions and do some pre-ordering. And we have had 11 folks come forward and fund. So that's very, very cool. The role-playing game is very dynamic. Nick Mall is a lot of fun. We set up a stretch goal. If we reach $500, we're going to give everybody a free PDF version of The Bleeding Mind, which is the first expansion to the rule set and involves psychic powers. And Nick's interpretation of psychic powers is very cool, a little bit creepy. So that's what's going on with the Big Damn Dryden role-playing game. That Kickstarter will run through October 3rd, at which point the game will be live. We are done. We're ready to play. So that's very exciting. Another book that has gone into editing is now in round 2 of editing. It is Alder's World Part 2, which is written by myself. Is that good grammar? Written by me. Myself was busy doing other things at the time. It was just me. So that has been through round 1 of reviews and is now going through line edits. The cover art is almost done. Have I seen finished cover art for Alder's World Part 2? I kind of think that I have, but I'm not sure where it is.
I haven't seen finished. I've seen like the initial image, but I haven't seen like the full front back cover art.
Oh, well, the back cover art isn't done because I haven't given Gavin, our artistic director, the back cover text. So that's got to be slowing him down a little bit.
It might have something to do with it.
Yeah, but I think that the cover image with the text on the side, like we did with Book 1, is actually complete. I have
I think that's
that he's done. And then, of course, he'll need a page count so that he can do the spine width and sort all that stuff out. I don't think we'll have spine text on that one, though. So Alder's World, I think we're scheduling for release on the 1st of November, if my memory serves me well.
Hold on, I have it written down.
Yeah.
Yes, I have it written down. 31st October.
October 31st. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Very close to the 1st of November. Similar in many ways.
Alder's World. No. October 31st is when Alder's World 1 goes back on Amazon. Mid-November is for Alder's World 2.
Okay, we might check those dates because I think it's October 15th for Amazon and 31st for release. But I could be wrong. You write things down, and that's cool. And gives you certain powers.
Things down. Big Damn Dryden, I have it written down in 2 different places.
Okay.
Big Damn Dryden on October 3rd, Alder's World 2 October 29th, Bryce the Open November, December at some point. Yeah,
And eclipsing whenever we see it.
And eclipsing, yeah. Whenever Dan hears anything.
Right. Which at this point he's just waiting on iUniverse. He's ready to go.
Right. So, Alders World 2 anywhere between October 29th and mid-November.
Okay.
So.
Well, there we go.
I'm sure we have a date, but I have it in 2 different places with 2 different dates. So.
Okay.
That's what I get for writing things in multiple places.
Right. I just have it in my head, and things slide right the hell out of there. So who knows? All right.
Sorry.
No, you're good. That's fine. And I'm trying to think. I feel like something else is going on in the science fiction universe. Am I lost? Did I skip something?
Well, there's something. There are 2 things I'd like to mention actually.
Go for it.
Well, one of them is I actually ordered a paper copy of your Alders World Part 1. I got it in the mail today.
Thank you, Eugene. That's very nice.
And it's yeah. As soon as I finish reading Lorelei, I'll get into that.
Right on.
So yeah, that I look forward to. Also, that's kind of the introduction to Dryden through with the audio clip you had on YouTube. And if anyone out there is listening to this, I highly recommend you listen to it. It's very well paced and really 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 fun. I mean, you'll want to know what the rest of the story is. Also, in terms of Rise of the European, I'm actually planning. I haven't started yet, although I might start since I'm kind of slow on Europe itself until I get the full manuscript. The sequel, and the sequel is going to be. It might be a series of books, but it's going to start out where it's going to be European is now trying to, attempting to conquer/cleanse the galaxy. Now, this obviously doesn't happen if you study ultimately it doesn't happen when we study the timeline of Dryden, but it's intending to do this. And at one point, it goes to it moves towards the center of the galaxy, center of the Milky Way, where it encounters a race of creatures or several races of sort of very closely related species of these very strange sort of, I'd call them maybe insect-like, but they're not really. I mean, it's very. I haven't fully for you two guys. I'm actually gonna post up a picture that I came across, which gave me a vague idea because they're related to the scourge. Scourge, the technoprey, who live in gas giants, and from the pictures I've seen, I think Gavin's pictures are that they look kind of nebulous in the way they're how they look. I mean, they have a form, but it's not entirely solid. At least that's from what I could see. These are distant related species who they don't live inside gas giants. They live in these core worlds towards the center of the universe. Lots of radiation. It's very nasty. They're always fighting each other. I'm very much inspired with sort of nature and sort of ant wars and stuff. And this is just a little picture, which gives you a vague idea of what I'm kind of thinking of. At least one of the creatures.
Oh, we got a picture we got to look at. All right. Oh.
Holy crap.
All right.
Thanks, Eugene.
That's a nightmare creature for sure. Awesome.
Yes.
Very
nice.
nice.
Have bad dreams. Thanks a lot. Because now I'm going to hear your words talking about, their teeth, they're dripping with this viscous acidic fluid, and I'm going to be like, ah!
So let's take a minute, since there's just a couple of us in here, and talk about the technoprey, because I happen to know a fair amount about them that I'm not sure is written anywhere, except in Gavin's shower cap of wisdom. The technoprey are not inherently an organic life form like we think of it. They formed in a gas giant planet where the pressure was high enough inside that plasma and electrical currents were able to intermix and form a stable matrix that creates life. right? So they are alive, but they don't have a body like we think of it. They expect to be living in the very high pressure interior of a gas giant planet. So when they discovered that there was a world outside of their planet and they wanted to explore space, those kind of shell things that you see over the little glowy parts on those images, Eugene, that's like a silicon-based or a composite-based shell that they build around them. That's not actually the living part of the creature. That's like the shell on a snail, if you want to think about it. And they hold themselves in that high-pressure plasma environment the same way that we take little pressure bottles of air out into space with us, right, in the form of spaceships. And so the glowing part is actually the living entity.
Okay.
And the shell part is something that they're wearing so that they can travel in space. You'll actually learn a little bit about them, well, not really until Alder's World Part 2. The crew of the ship in Book 1, that's actually a Technoprey device that they have found there in that first chapter that you were referring to on YouTube. And they do come back throughout all three books, as a matter of fact, but only in a sort of limited way. It was very accidental what happened there in Chapter 1, and the Technoprey didn't mean to be here, and they didn't mean to be doing this any more than the humans did. So, but just in terms of thinking about if you wanted to find a related species, that's very cool. But sort of the idea is that these were creatures that were born out of a high-pressure plasma environment, and more than anything else, they look like sort of the inside of a plasma ball fused with a chemical battery. They're a very different sort of life than we recognize as organic life. And I just want to mention, I'll put the link to the YouTube video. It's just an audio of me reading chapter 1 of Alder's World. But thanks very much for the plug, Eugene. I owe you $5, and we'll put the link below. All right. Have we now covered science fiction for the week?
Well, just I wanted to finish up one or two more thoughts about the.
Go for it.
Let's say you mentioned it'd be sort of a blob thing. I originally was thinking about the idea of ants, but now what I'm thinking about is that instead of being blobs, they'd be more like maggots. Like if you've ever seen, like
I'm sorry, I just get the shivers. I'm sorry. I'm not meaning to interrupt, but you're like maggots, and I'm like, ugh.
That's the whole point. It means it's working.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Eugene. Sorry about that.
Well, these creatures, as I said, I haven't fully formed what they're going to be like in my head. So you say that the Technoprey are under high pressure environments. These creatures they're formed in is heavy radiation. It sounds what you told, heavy radiation environments. Planets very much like Venus. The one way to describe something is almost like a black Venus. Where it's just like a complete hellhole. So it's kind of inspired by xenomorphs, which are these creatures which are so shaped by these heavily environments, these harsh environments. So when the European pokes them, like when I was a kid and I was in South Carolina, I was outside and I saw a nest of ants. They may have been fire ants, I don't know what they were. They were nice red ants. I took a stick, I poked the nest. These things came swarming out. They didn't come towards me, carrying out. And that's what these high pressure creatures, which as soon as they burst out, they're gonna they're so well evolved. At least at first, there isn't gonna be much that can stand in their way. Certainly not Il Solitaire. Those guys don't have any weapons. Also, I'm gonna tie it into this because this is the very end of Primer and being Belle Epoque. And as far as I know, the corporations don't survive into the Belle Epoque. At least
not really.
Of them. Is that correct? Right?
Yeah, not in the form that they were before anyway. The European kills a lot of them, and the Il Solitaire clouds up space with ripplers, so that the humans that survive are sort of trapped on their planets. Well, the humans in the core systems that survive are sort of trapped on their planets, and the other humans who have already escaped out into the larger galaxy are now forming civilizations, but they aren't corporate. They're not from the big three corporations. They're other entities of whatever stripes that new authors want to bring in.
Okay. Basically, the Cirque Corporation, if you know, is kind of the evil corporation, like the Wayland Yutani of Dryden, and so
Right.
it's gonna I'm actually gonna deal with maybe possibly what happens to Cirque Corporation, where it ultimately gets caught up in this humongous war between these very, very vicious creatures. So basically, that's in sci-fi. That's the direction I'm going right now.
Awesome, awesome. And you prompted me to think. We started a players and fan page on Facebook, and Nick has this "Which corporation do you work for?" Online survey that you can take, and a fight has broken out between CircCorp and TerraCorp on Facebook page. It's just a lot of fun. The Manhattan players identify themselves as CircCorp. And hey, there is Daniel Hunt. How are you, sir?
Doing good.
Hey, Dan.
Hunt.
Finally made it.
Yeah, I had to switch to the laptop because I'm not smart enough to use the iPad.
What is that on your shirt?
I don't know.
Ah!
Oh!
I need 100.
Yeah.
Ah!
The actual shirt at.
Let it. Oh, let's click so that Dan's got the center screen here. Ah!
You can make it so that it presents to everybody.
The
So it's
cover of Dan's new book, The Eclipsing of Cyrus C, drawn by Gavin Revitt, laid out by Gavin as well. Dan, what would you like to tell us about this fabulous image?
It's just a T-shirt to give away to folks.
That's great.
So if you want one, let me know, and I'll give it away.
Ah,
Two boxes
well,
of them.
do you really? Oh, well, we'll set up a mechanism to make sure that those get around, because that's just wonderful.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's awesome. I love that logo.
Hey, it's fun.
I'm sorry?
It's a little bit of vanity, but it's fun.
A little bit of vanity is a good thing. So the $64,000 question, Dan, is when is the book available to go with the fabulous T-shirt?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I told them to send it to print last week, so we'll see what they come back with.
Awesome, awesome. That's wonderful. We're going to put in the Kickstarter a note that says, here's where to find all the backstory pieces, and it's going to be all of the fiction that's available in the Dryden universe. And we are more or less waiting for you to send us a hyperlink to tell us that Eclipsing is live. There's 2 different clips from you in the actual rule book for Big Damn Dryden, and so we didn't want to talk about, and here's where you can read the fiction and not have Dan Hunt's fiction, because that's like the point, right?
Yeah.
So just whenever you get word, be sure and get it to us, and we'll get it in the Kickstarter that day. And then I believe that Tracy Vincent is soon to appear with some very cool advertising materials for you that we will run around through the Facebook author groups, and those are also waiting on that hyperlink.
Yep.
So yeah, very cool, very cool.
I'm just hoping that the editor changed a word, and so now instead of getting hit by a beam, like a laser beam, the ship got by a giant bean. Back.
Oh, I saw that coming.
So if you read somewhere in there that a giant bean hit a ship, I'm sorry.
Just in the habit of plugging people, there's some fabulous cinematographic scenes in Eclipsing of Cyrus C where you really feel like you're there with the characters. It's enjoyable to read. So as soon as it's available, we'll send everybody rushing off to get copies of it. So right on. Dan Hunt with the Eclipsing of Cyrus C and the kick-ass T-shirt. Gavin designed that D, and he for the Dryden experiment, and he came to me and he said, so do we want other logos or other style logos? And I said, no, that's the Dryden logo. We want to put different words and colors on it, and it reads great. Can you move it down just a little bit more so that we can see the whole thing with the Welcome Rebel on the bottom of it?
I don't know if you can read that anymore.
It just makes me so happy inside. That's such a beautiful thing. Gavin's just really talented, you know.
Yeah.
That looks great, Dan. That's awesome. Let us know how we can help you share those around. That's a lot of fun. Say, Dan, that doesn't look like your hotel room either.
No, this is my new pad, and I'm sitting on my lawn furniture because I don't have anything else in the house.
Very nice, very nice.
So hey, at least you have a chair.
Yeah.
You do have a chair, and the waterfall. I don't hear the waterfall running in the background, so I assume that they got that fixed.
Yeah, they still have to replace the floor, but otherwise.
Very nice, beautiful. All right, Daniel Hunt.
I just heard from Damien. He says that he's really exhausted, and he's sorry he can't be here, but he wants to tell everybody hello.
All right, hi, Damien. When you watch this later, just know that we were all very let down, and we're very depressed, and we're thinking negative things about you now, so... All right, Damien's getting some sleep. It doesn't look like Kitty's coming in either. She must either had conflicts or she may be also very tired. Dan, just going back to Rise of the European very briefly. We talked about it already a moment ago, but Dan is one of the authors, so I want to go back and visit it. What has happened is that I have seen rough draft from everyone, and there were a couple of things that sort of obviously weren't going to work with the way the story is set up, and two of the stories are actually back out with people right now. And then next week we'll start a sort of a serious discussion of how to put the pieces together. And you're largely going to be immune to that because your story is very freestanding. It doesn't integrate nearly as much as other folks' do. But Eugene and I will be up till midnight at some point going, okay, if we put that scene there and this scene here, you know, it's just going to have to happen to make the whole thing work. But we think that we're probably in good shape for mid-November.
Okay.
It was sort of a toss-up between that one and Alder's World 2, and the deciding factor was that Alder's World 2 is a single narrative story that's 24,000 words long, and Rise of the European 2 is 70,000 words written, or Rise of the European is 70,000 words written by 6 different authors, and so we're going with Alder's World at the very end of October, and then flipping over and doing Rise of the European in mid-November, just because it's so much easier to edit that direction. So that's what's coming. And I don't know if you've been over to have a look at the Big Damn Dryden Kickstarter, but it's going very well. We set up the pre-release version of the game that's got everything except character creation in it, and instead we put a fully playable scenario in it, and we've given away about 60 of those by now. So that's really cool. We have an argument going on Facebook between people who are fans of Cert Corp and people who are fans of TerraCore, and we're all very proud of that. Speaking of vanity, it's just a lot of fun to see guys slagging away at each other over corporations that you invented one afternoon. So I think the next place I'm going to move, and the other place that's sort of had a fair amount of activity this week, is the horror genre. We continue to work on the foundation book. We don't have a date set or author set, but Eugene has approached an artist that seems to be interested in working with us. Eugene, you want to talk a little bit about what's going on there?
Okay. Let me post the link to his. I mean, it's on Facebook, but I'll post up the link to his stuff right here. He's a guy I've known about for several years now. Here you go. Yeah, he's a guy I've known about for several years. About a month ago, I got in contact with him maybe about a year ago. I'm not sure. A little less than a year, about a possibility of doing a story. One of his artworks. You'll see he has a lot of sort of anthropoid ants with like big blades and stuff. And I had the idea of creating a story where humans live in a world where insects are the dominant life form, not them. And
this may be the case already.
He he says that right now he's focusing on a comic called, in his own world, he's focusing on something called Bone Men, which is, I don't really want to call it superhero. It's literally just a bunch of H.R. Giger bone monster creatures, and it's really morbid. It is really trippy. Um, it's yeah, it's really cool. I mean, the style he does is this. He does color, but a lot of it is black and white. A lot of emphasis on white bone and these very creepy monsters. And so I got in contact with him. I sent him the horror. Um, sent him the primer for a Dryden Nightmare. He was interested in it. He says he's on board. I've been talking to him. So I actually posted up a few of his stuff on Facebook. He's willing to do commissions. He might do some stuff by himself and put it in Dryden. I'm not sure, but I mean he's got a really good, especially my own personal vision with some aspects of the Nightmare universe. It really works well. I also think that Damien's Ubuntu vision, from what I've read about his work, is that it would fit there too. So I really do think his style really does take. If we can really get him involved, it would really help take Nightmare to the to like the final, to really take it up a notch.
Awesome. What we have done, we sort of failed in our launch to attract authors. I think I had confused them. They all joined the Facebook page and then didn't show up at the organizational meeting, and then today one of them messaged me and wanted to know if it was on YouTube. And so we've sort of taken a little bit of a longer view in terms of developing Nightmare. Damien and Eugene are both very committed to the idea. Both of them are also, have daily lives and are participating in the Rise of the European. I would like to write for the Nightmare, but it's not happening in the next 2 months. Well, at least not the next month. Maybe by 2 months out I'll be able to. So we're sort of taking a kind of a long view of the development of Nightmare. We're committed to Dryden Nightmares, and we're going to build the Nightmare universe around Eugene's really exciting twisted tree of nightmares and poison, but we don't have anything with a date on it at this point. At this point, it's still just kind of folks going, well, this is cool. And if we were able to tie in with this new author or new artist, that would be really cool. I found that artists are very catalyzing. The authors all sit around and talk about it, and then they see a picture of it and they go, oh, that's what I want, and they go off and write it. This happens a lot with stuff that we bring into science fiction through Gavin. He makes concrete images that the authors then sort of gather around, and it's a very good match. So maybe this guy will be sort of instrumental in getting some momentum behind horror, but we remain committed to the horror, but not to the date that the horror is going to happen. So we will continue to work on that collection until we're in a good place. I wanted to just sort of mention that the steampunk is out there. Mikey Vessa brought us a young man. Oh boy, do you remember his name, Tracy?
No. I mean, I remember it's something I don't know very well.
Right, it was like
not like James or Mike. Yeah, it's
Jason, Jassine, maybe Jassine.
Just Yassine?
Yassine. Maybe. Let's go with it. His name is now Yassine. And he's a young man in Germany who is going to be a student of Mikey's, but can't start for whatever reason until the next semester starts in 6 months or something. There was some complicated set of rules, and she wanted projects for him in the meantime. And I sort of suggested Dryden Fantasy to her, and she thought that was a good place, and then she introduced him to the steampunk group on Facebook. So I think we're going to see some more action with the steampunk group, particularly with Coalbridge coming shortly. We are due at the end of October to sort of start formal work on the Coleridge short story collection. And that collection is going to be a little different than some of the other collections we've done because Mike A. wants to draw for it, and then we're going to write short stories to match up to her images. She's going to give us more of a description of what Coleridge looks like and what's going on there. I've written a couple of short stories to her images already, and I'm really kind of enjoying that process and feel greedy about wanting to write more of those. But that is due to start at the end of October, and it looks like we may have a second artist working specifically in Coleridge. I haven't talked to Anya about Etherhertz at all this week. I know that she remains committed to the project and continues to comment on things. I just haven't had a follow-up. We have 2 cities in our steampunk universe, one of which is in England in the 1880s named Coleridge, and one of them is Baden-Baden, an actual city in Germany, in 1910. So we've got 2 sort of parallel histories happening about 50 years apart in our steampunk history. I sort of think that if we start seriously working on the steampunk book at the end of October, that we'll maybe be looking at actually releasing it in February or March. So we're beginning to feel like we might know a little bit. We'll kind of have to see if things actually gel in October, but we're starting to feel like maybe that's going to happen. Then the next universe I wanted to talk about was the APOC universe. We came out with Lorelei You'll Never Die almost a month ago now by Laura Conrad. It was the first and sort of foundational book in Dryden APOC. And that I know of, Laura continues to be the only author that's really plugging in APOC. Eugene has expressed an interest in writing about Laura's main character. But I don't know, Tracy, have you talked to anybody else that's writing in our post-apocalypse?
No, I've had a couple people say that they were interested in writing in apocalypse stuff, but, they're holding their secrets near and dear to their hearts.
All right.
So we'll see. They might show up with a finished product and say, here, would you read this?
You know that creepy Dan Hunt does that. He'll just show up one day with an entire finished story. You didn't even know he was in the project, and then all of a sudden, boom, there he is. So these things do happen. Overachiever.
Make those of us look bad.
Insomnia.
It's insomnia. You're breaking our curve, man. All right. Well, so I suppose that if folks are out there watching, or if you guys know folks, we do want to develop our post-apocalypse universe, and we would support a project in post-apocalypse, either in conjunction with Lorelei or as a freestanding project. But we don't have anything. The only thing that we sort of considered as a part of post-apocalypse is that Nicholas Mall has a role-playing game called Frankenstein Atomic Frontier, which I'm madly in love with, but was not a good match for the post-apocalypse universe, and we have sort of scheduled a conversation about Frankenstein and what we might do with Frankenstein if we're going to do anything with it for Christmas, I think. So I really, really loved the environment that Nick had created for Frankenstein Atomic Frontier, but I didn't. Anyway, I'm still very sad about that. Anything else about Apocalypse? Did I miss anything about Apocalypse?
I got my copy of Lorelei last week, and I read it.
Cool.
What did you think?
I liked it. It was a little bit. There's a little bit of a PG-13 plus in there. So,
yes.
But I would think that my 14-year-old would otherwise like it if I wasn't a stingy old man. I won't send her that sort of stuff. But
yeah, I was really clear with a lot of people that I sent it to that this is definitely not a young adult book. Yeah. It's not graphic in description, but it is very graphically worded. Yeah. Like the language in it is graphic, even if the situations might not be. And they took it and they're like, yeah, it's an adult book, but it's not as bad as they thought it was going to be.
And it does kind of suck you into the story. Yeah. If you get into the second little story there, you kind of get drawn through. So I thought you did a really good job with the book.
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
would've- It wouldn't surprise me if one of the big publishers had put that out. I mean, it was a pretty good book.
Yes! Yay!
Yay! You know,
Yay!
the backstory on Laura Conrad is that when Dryden was very first starting, I just went out to DeviantArt and I started reading art or reading fiction because I wanted to try to find people to bring in. And I think that as soon as I say this, I'm going to really offend someone. I think that Laura is the only author that I ended up working with out of that set. I worked with several artists out of that group of people that I approached, but I was reading these stories and I was like, these stories are great, and I really enjoy these stories. Man, these are awesome. And so I wrote her, and we kind of started this conversation back and forth, and come to find out she's 19 years old.
Wow.
I was like, why are you writing like this at 19 years old? There's something going on here. It's really remarkable. And so that led to the creation of Sky Goddesses of Dryden volumes 1 through 4 that she and Danielle Everett did. And then I came back to Laura and I said, I still want to work with you. This is really great. Well, she's now 22 and she's published her first full-length book. She won't tell us what the next one is about. She keeps going, well, I'm working on it. Well, I've got stuff in the works. And, you know, one of those days, the big publisher is going to have her. And I'm going to be sitting around going, yeah, well, when she was 19 years old, it was speaking of vanity, right? But Laura has been a phenomenal writer since the first time that I ever saw her, when she was just this kid posting on DeviantArt. There's just something different going on in her head, and it's really, really exciting to be a part of it. All right.
I'm happy to have worked with her.
Yes, and Tracy took that story. That actually goes further because I offered Laura that I wanted to do a collection of her short stories. And Tracy looked at the collection of short stories and said, actually, this is a novel. They just aren't all identified as belonging together. And she and Laura built that novel out of the short story collection and really produced something that was a lot cooler than what I had in mind when I told her I wanted a short story collection. So, yeah, props to Tracy on that one, too.
Props to Laura for writing it, though, because
yeah.
We went back and forth for 2 months in emails on these stories. It was a long project, but it was so worth it.
It was a very cool project. And now comes Tracy's turn. Tracy's first publication will be in Rise of the European here in November. Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Is the suspense killing you?
It's making me very nervous.
Yeah, right. So anyway,
I'm used to being in the background type thing, and so it's kind of nervous.
You know, when we have DrydenCon, there's going to be a line at your table too, man.
No, not really.
Okay.
But I've already sold several copies of Rise of the European, so how about them apples?
How have you done that?
Because people know me.
All right.
I have friends in the book world. I have you know, I am a likable person sometimes.
Okay. When there's been enough coffee. And,
yeah, and there's all kinds of people who are like, ooh, I know you. I want a signed copy of that book. And I'm like,
yeah, that's
sure,
right.
Why
I saw that comment thread going through the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, sure, why not? I'll sign it.
Right on. We're all about that. Then the last genre that I wanted to touch on tonight, the last one that's we've got up and active right now, is our fantasy genre. We had been sort of delaying starting fantasy because it is a really, really big concept, and it has the potential to be very, very large. It also has the potential to require a whole lot of work, and we're really sort of maxed out, Tracy and I and Gavin, in terms of the amount of material we can support. But then Nick Mall from Ballarat, Australia, said, oh, by the way, I've started a fantasy game for Dryden. And we said, okay. So now our fantasy world is active, and it's really exciting. The fantasy the concept that he started with for how to create that shared Creative Commons model is that the universe is actually an aperiogen, which is an infinitely number. A polygon with an infinite number of sides. So if you go down to the dungeon in any of these fantasy worlds and you aren't careful with where you go, you may actually come up in an entirely different plane. And this allows different authors to take on their own planes of existence and write in them, and then have creatures crossbreed and move back and forth. And Nick has been focused on developing the creatures that exist in that space in between.
You have a map or anything of it?
Not yet.
I've got two stories that are tracking around 16,000 words right now that I could finish and throw into it pretty easily.
Overachiever. That's all I'm going to say to you, Dan. You're going to say something about, oh, I have a story. I'll be like, overachiever. Make us slackers look bad.
Oh, I've got I had some things to say about it.
Go ahead, Eugene. Is Eugene there?
Yeah, he was.
He was there a second ago.
I know. I heard him.
All right. Well, I'm going to go on with where we are. Eugene, whenever you get there. Nope,
No,
we lost
we
your
do
audio
not
somehow,
hear you,
Eugene. I think you may have come unplugged. You're not showing as muted. Check your jack.
Check your jack, Jack.
So, Dan, you have two fantasy stories that you might like to involve?
I've got one called Crossing Gabaldi, which I could very easily flip into somebody's world, and another one that I haven't titled yet.
Well, the idea is that because it's the aperiogen, you can just write yours where you are, right? There he's come back. Write yours where you are, and then if you want, we can make it accessible through the aperiogen to other parts of or other surfaces of the fantasy polygon. So, you know, we could have your universe get invaded by creatures from up under the mountains, or, you know, however we wanted to do it to integrate it. But you should feel very comfortable to just take your story and present it as a part of the fantasy world, because it's just a surface on the aperiogen, and it can exist entirely independently of other people's. Does that make sense? Am I making sense when I say aperiogen?
Yes, to me.
Okay.
But I've been there since the beginning, so.
Do you guys hear me?
True.
Yes!
Yes! Yay!
All right. Okay, then. One thing about aperiogen also is that I really look forward to those stories. Nick, he actually wrote his vision of aperiogen is in many ways very similar to my vision of Nightmare. There are a lot of similarities to it. He in fact wrote a short thing, a blurb, which actually connects the two universes. This thing called the Terror Gate.
The Terror Gate, yes.
Where, yeah, you go through it, you go to the aperiogen. Another one, you go into the Nightmare world, which is the big veins of all different Earths and such. So I'm gonna be hopefully sometime in the future I'll be doing something about that. When it comes to Lorelei, I've read that so far, and I've read it. It's very good. It's definitely engaging. You don't want to put it down. It's one thing is when I was thinking about the and this ties into something else, into what I was doing in the Nightmare. I sent out some. I don't know if I sent it to you, Dan. A description of a new universe in Nightmare, of these things that live in and around a giant black hole that has basically devoured most of the universe. And there's this complete melding of technology and humanity. And they're part dead, they're part alive. I want it to be really dark and really creepy as possible. And I'm thinking of tying it into a short story I wrote called Born of Cold Light, which introduces one of the dark creatures for the Nightmare. But I was actually thinking, even though they're radically different universes, I was thinking of having something where, briefly, it would be, that Lorelei would actually briefly interact with this this universe they're talking about. Now, obviously, she can't go there, she can't live there. I mean, there's no oxygen, at least as far as, but it's radically different. But one thing is that, you know, they dealt with a story at the beginning. about the black cube. Where you touch it and you see the stuff you like. Obviously, I haven't finished the entire book, so I don't know how that ties in. I mean, but I did have some idea because there's the idea of the time travel and all that. So again, maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe the book ends in a way that blows all these ideas out the water. But the idea of having where she briefly comes into contact with one of these creatures, and there's like a conversation between the two. There isn't much revealed about this new universe, but it would be where she actually interacts with this idea. Where the idea would be she's this person who she doesn't, at least the part I'm at, she isn't much of a believer, like a religious person. These other creatures are, but she has this, from what I can tell, she's got a very strong sense of humanity. These other creatures, they kind of have this weird religion, but they have absolutely no sense of humanity. It's basically anti-humanity. So I want to see where she might have a dialogue with one of these creatures. Then I have another short story thing that would just be sort of like an action type thing, because she does strike me as kind of almost like a Tomb Raider character, like a Lara Croft character. So put her in sort of an action story. So I don't know. I haven't finished the story. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe she gets shot at the very end. I don't know. But
we'll never tell. You'll have to read it through.
But I'll once it's done, I'll decide what to do. But I wouldn't mind writing a few short stories in that universe as well. But yeah, there's that, and there's also the and then also I kind of put it on hold for a second, but now because the European, I'm putting Rise European for side until I get the final manuscript, the draft manuscript. There is. It might come out to be sort of a novelette, or my first long story in Nightmare, which I started to write. Awesome. It is a story. It's not quite like Born of Cold Light, which is more like a poem. This is actually a story, but it's going to be a very odd story about a guy who pretty much all descends into the underworld, or some version of the underworld, which ties into Nightmare. And as you see goes on, as he literally becomes, as he gets closer and closer to death, he becomes physically weaker. At the same time, there are all these monsters and stuff around. So he basically reaches destination as he's getting weaker and weaker and weaker. It's going to be very dark and very black. So that's one thing I'm working on.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that, Eugene. You know, I'm waiting for your big project where you take off and really tear one.
Man, my life compared to like the super secret spy man who's the overachiever, and Eugene who has more ideas than Carter has liver pills. I'm boring.
Well, someone has to keep us all on planet Earth, Tracy. My God, if we were just left to ourselves, we'd never get anything accomplished.
Well, I'm listening to Eugene, and I'm just like, wow, I don't have that much going on in my head. And, and I'm like, I am like the most boring person ever. I'm ending Alder's World. Ta-da!
Yeah, well, and building adverts for Dan.
Everybody else's
promoting Lorelei and doing a whole lot of really useful things.
Everyone else's ideas. I'm just like, I'm a cheerleader or a pimp or something, but I'm overwhelmed at the moment, Eugene. Thank you.
I now have this picture of you in one of those big 1970s purple velvet. It's pretty awesome with the cane.
Oh yeah, I have a pamphlet that makes people jealous.
Oh, but your ideas. You may not be doing it right now, but as soon I've obviously I don't have any real concrete thoughts of how she'd be woven in because I haven't seen what your ideas are. But in the sequel to Rise of Europa, I do plan to have Sadie become a major character. I'm not quite sure how it's going to be because I haven't read the story. I haven't, but that's basically. So yeah, one of your major characters is going to become a big character in the sequel.
Well, thank you.
Ashley Kemp said great things about Sadie today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, Ashley likes Sadie.
Yeah, it was very cool. And that's the universes. So thank goodness that didn't take very long to get through. The other really awesome thing that happened this week, we need to, or I guess it's now last week, we really need to all stop and take our hats off and say a huge thank you to Kitty Sarkozy.
Yes, DragonCon was awesome.
she had a suite with a piano in it.
Yes.
At Dragon Con, and she took us. She threw a Dryden Experiment party at Dragon Con. Nobody there had ever heard of us. They had no idea why they were drinking all that booze, but they were really excited to be doing it.
And had steampunk music.
And they had steampunk music, the Extraordinary Contraptions. Did I say it right? The Extraordinary Contraptions, who are interested in participating in the steampunk universe. And sooner or later, we're going to get a representative from the Extraordinary Contraptions and Mikey Vessa on the line at the same time, and we're going to figure out how to make them residents of Coalbridge. I talked it over with Mikey. She thought it was a great idea. The man, I don't actually know if he's the lead, but the man who got on Skype to talk about the Extraordinary Contraptions was in favor of the idea. So we just need to work together with them to make that happen. But what we all need to do is stop and bow down before the greatness that is Kitty Sarkozy.
Yes.
Go up and then back down again. I don't know which direction she is from here. I'm bowing to the kitty. I think, no, actually, Kitty's probably over there. Anyway, so Kitty Sarkozy, really amazingly cool things happened. We sent postcards with contact information on the back. We made available the free version of Big Damn Dryden to people that were there. Kitty provided booze. Tracy and Eugene and Damien and Rebecca and I and somebody else. Who else was there?
That was it.
That was it. All hung out on Skype and participated vicariously, and were not jealous at all, and didn't feel bitter in our hearts that we weren't there. So
we just made promises to show up next year.
That's right. That's right. So to Kitty Sarkozy, many thanks. So what an awesome deal that was. Well, that's it. I'm full up. Anybody else got anything?
Well, I do want one of those, Dan. I do want one of those shirts. Because I'm going to hopefully, if I can get the money, I'm going to go to a science fiction convention in DC called Doxicon, and if I'm wearing one of those shirts, people might come and say, "Oh, what's that? What's that?" And so I think it maybe might be a way of promotion.
Yeah. Well, that's the idea. I've got some. If somebody else has another party or something.
I'm having a blogiversary on my other thing that I don't mention.
Or like we have like somebody going out to the farmers market again and sets up a Dryden table. I can send them out a couple of shirts. I've got some author coins too, and hopefully when the book finally comes out in print, maybe I'll throw a couple of books in it. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, my side project that I rarely talk about is my blog where I book review, and it's actually going to be a year old in November. And so I'm gathering supplies and stuff for a big giveaway.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just need your addresses. I'll be going to the post office here pretty soon to mail my kids some books. So.
Okay.
Awesome. Excellent stuff. Okay, well, if we have no more business, I'm going to kill the live broadcast, and then if we just want to hang around and BS for a little while, we can do that. But going once, going twice, we're done. Thanks, everybody, for stopping in. I'm Joel. This is my hot pink bedroom, and you have listened to an hour about Dryden. You are a noble soul. All right. Later, everybody.